Thank you so much. Brian Bixler, 1223 Scenic Circle. I came to express my opposition to the cell tower for just a couple points. One is the expressed need, lack of coverage. Myself and my neighbors have not experienced that in that area, so I challenge that. Secondly, the proposed site is not declared, but certainly functionally green space. Disrupting that would be disruptive to the wildlife there, certainly to Mill Creek. You know, I know you're going to do an environmental survey, but you know, we'll see how that works out. Secondly, I do believe, you know, should you prove need due to lack of coverage, there are other locations nearby that are industrialized. They may not be town property, but areas that would certainly be less disruptive to the community and their neighbors. And finally, I cannot imagine that the savings in my town property taxes through a reduced assessment is going to offset the actual reduction of my property value. So, thank you.
Thank you. Can I just say, I'm going to clap too, because 1 minute and 3 seconds. He is the MVP right now, by far. We'll see. Rick, where's Rick? Rick, you don't get his extra 4 minutes. No, you do not. Right now, nobody can hear that, and they're videotaping this. Anybody watching at home live, or they have no idea.
Okay, my name is Rick Staracy.
There he goes.
And I live at 1491 Providence Drive. I've been a resident of the town of Webster for 20 years. So like they say, you know, time flies when you're having fun. So I'm here to urge you to deny this application for the proposal of the 135-foot cell tower. First of all, it's the wrong location. You know, it's in a residential area. It's near homes where children play, where people go out and enjoy the area. And a cell tower that height is going to hurt the character of the neighborhood. All right? 135-foot structure will dramatically alter the landscape. Okay, you're going to see this from everywhere. All right? In addition to that, studies have shown that home values decrease on the average of 20% when they're close to a cell tower. Okay? So now, more importantly, I think, than the value of everybody's house, which is important to everybody, is the potential health hazards. Now, there's been a lot of studies around the world, a lot in Europe, very few in the US, which is surprising, or maybe not surprising. But I think what happens is the people who want to put this cell tower here will cite the fact that they are well within the FCC guidelines, okay? But they don't tell everybody that the guidelines that they're talking about are 25 years old. I'm in the electronics business, and I know that the ability of, or the capability of these cell towers now are way different, way more powerful than they were 25 years ago when they wrote these guidelines. The other thing is, it's been proven, it's been studied that young children, and we have a lot of young children in that neighborhood. I know on Providence Drive we have a lot of new families moving in with very young children. Young children have, their systems have not fully developed. Their immune systems have not fully developed. Some of them, you know, younger, very, very young children have thinner skulls yet. They haven't fully developed. So that radiation over time is going to build up, right? And against somebody that doesn't have a fully developed immune system, it's going to hurt them. And nobody in this room will be around when those kids are affected, including the people who want to put the cell tower in, right? The World Health Organization in 2011 declared radiation from cell towers to potentially be a class 2B carcinogen. And a carcinogen is something that causes cancer, according to that organization. So do we really want to put this cell tower next to houses, next to homes, next to families? Right? This doesn't make a lot of sense. The other impact, and somebody else said it, is the impact on wildlife. You know, birds, animals, this thing's right above the creek. So what's going on? We're gonna throw radiation on the creek. We're gonna throw radiation into the air, right? It's gonna pose a lot of problems for birds, the bats that are everywhere, which eat the insects, right? So the ecosystem that's in that area is also gonna be affected, okay? Fish are in that creek all the time. Do we want those fish to be irradiated? Yeah, that makes them bigger, but certainly not better, right? There's gotta be an alternative, and we really should be asking for an alternative. So I'm going to ask the community, I'm going to ask our board here to demand some things from the people who want to put this cell tower in. All right? Find a safer location. I don't want it around the houses. We got a lot of industrial areas. We've got a lot of areas that would not be affecting families. All right? Demand the environmental evaluation, but do it. Pick a third party that has nothing to do with the people that are going to benefit from putting in a cell tower. All right? You got to get a third party that's totally independent. All right? I'm going to ask this board, prioritize the taxpayers and the citizens of Webster. Okay? Prioritize our future, our grandchildren, our children, their children's future. All right? I don't want another Love Canal here. I know it's not that bad yet, but that's what they said about Love Canal. All right, so I have a bunch of documents that I'd like to give to the board or the planning board. You tell me which one. All right? And again, I'm going to urge you to look for a
I'm just making trends. He's at 4:55 right now.
And I'm done. So thank you for your time.
All right, and you know what, Josh, can you take those and we can get them to the town board? Right now, we don't need to get into the planning board because it hasn't been referred to the planning board.
I gave you 6 copies.
Thanks, Rick. Tim, you have nice handwriting, but it's really, is it Tim Clymer? How? Claybeck, okay. Okay.
I'm Tim Claybeck, a resident of Providence Drive. Been in Webster for about 13 years now. So I'd just like to say that as far as this cell tower proposal, I have serious concerns about long-term health effects. I mean, it's really only the last 25 years that we've been putting up these towers, and it's been increasing exponentially. There's no good long-term studies of the health effects of cell tower radiation, particularly on children. And if you were to go to the American Cancer Society, they say at this time there's no strong evidence that exposure to RF waves from cell phone towers causes any noticeable health effects. However, this does not mean the RF waves from cell phone towers have been proven to be absolutely safe. Most expert organizations agree that more research is needed to help clarify this, especially for any possible long-term effects. So, like Rick brought up earlier, we have children that are in their developmental stages, and nobody in the scientific community can say what the effects of cell tower radiation will be when they're hitting their 30s or 40s or 50s later on in life. So, you know, we have mostly older people in this room. It's not going to affect us. We don't know how to affect these children, right? If you were to walk out on Wildflower tonight, there's many young children riding their bikes, playing ball, doing those type of typical childhood summertime activities. I think the board owes it to the next generation to look out for their welfare. Another thing I'd like to say is that there's, I think, many other alternative sites within the town of Webster that are commercial or industrial zoned that make a much better opportunity for a cell tower location than a residential community, especially over the Mill Creek. And the last thing I'd like to say is I'd just like the town board to make sure they're taking into consideration the residents of Webster. Nothing against capitalism, corporations, but Verizon is a $170 billion market cap value company. It's one of the top 100 most valuable companies in the entire world. Their interests are different than what ours are. Please take our interests into consideration as you take this matter under advisement. Thank you.
Thank you, Kim. Lori Barrow's next.
I defer. I defer to Teresa.
Okay, so Lori,
No, I give my time to Teresa, and she would like to.
so you don't want to speak tonight?
No, sir.
Okay.
I'm just kidding. Yes, I was late because I coaching my son's little league team, Savannah Bananas. Yes. Thank you. It's great to see all of these faces here and all of our neighbors. It shows that there is truly a feeling about this. There is definitely an impact to the community. Like many of us, I'm here because we believe the proposed tower is being placed in the wrong location. And we're asking to stand up for the residents you represent. The last meeting, it was stated that alternative locations could be provided to the board. My question is, has that list been provided to the board? Has that been reviewed? The gentleman here spoke in the last meeting that, some of the locations were denied because they were, number one, residential areas. I think this is a residential area. Another reason why other locations were denied was because there were wetlands. And I'm pretty sure on the map of what the packet says, it lists some wetlands right around there. So I just want to follow up on that to make that point. Because before approving a project that impacts our neighborhood forever, the community deserves a full transparency to know that every reasonable alternative has been explored. Again, I've said this before, we're not opposed to improved service, we're not opposed to technology, we're opposed to sacrificing these residential areas. Webster is beautiful, it says right behind you, it's where it's worth living. I'm not sure if it is when you have a cell phone tower in your backyard with all of those unknown risks. Verizon has resources to relocate the tower, but we'll only do that if we ask for that. Other towns have done this. Other towns have said no to these things. You have that right and the responsibility to do it here. This is not just about a tower. It's about protecting property values, preserving the character of our neighborhood, and standing up for the people who live here. Not large corporations, as we know that Verizon is not small. We're simply asking you to do what is right for the people. The board, you have a choice, okay? You can approve something from a little piece of land, get a little cash. You can do that. Will it benefit each of us? I don't have any problem with my cell phone service, and no one in the neighborhood does. So it's kind of weird. But anyways, again, you have a choice. You have something that can benefit Verizon, or you can advocate for a solution that respects our community and our residents, these residents. And we hope you choose to protect and respect your residents. Thank you.
Thanks, Teresa.
Thank you.
Pat Deskins is up.
Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
My problem is, I don't have a hearing problem, but many friends have said there's problems hearing online. So here I am. I am the direct line straight beyond my back door where the cell tower will be placed. I have not had anyone from Verizon to come say, here's what you will see, here's what will be taken out from this wonderful natural setting that does impact the natural area that has been reduced by the tremendous, although I do understand monies, buildings in the area. I get all that. No one has come and said, here's what you will see out your back window. Along my house, there is a town road that leads to a sewer pumping station. They access it twice a day, understandable. At my continual nagging, we'll leave it at that, it was finally put a chain link fence that can only be accessed by those people. We had, you can look it up, drug deals going on back there. We had dumping of stuff that shouldn't be there, even though it says private property, do not be here. No one's come. So I agree with everything with the technology. I understand all of that, but personally, nobody's knocked on my door to tell me what is going to go on with my house. I don't know whether the trees that I look at, yes, my property ends at the creek. I don't know the trees beyond that, if they're going to be cut down, and now I'm going to look at a tower that, because of the height, has to have, by law, flashing lights on it. I have no idea. No one has come and knocked on my door. So it is very personal for me. I agree with all of the other people who have talked, but this is what has bothered me. I admit I'm late to the party. I've taken care of my 94-year-old parents and just buried my dad. So I'm late to the party, but I still want answers. Thank you.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Pat. Oh, boy. I am very concerned I'm not going to make out well with this name. Is it Miriam Jenke?
Miriam Yankee. You did
Not too bad.
A security-first AI-powered network from HPE turns your network into a powerhouse of everywhere connectivity, stronger security, time-saving automation, and actionable insights. Start your journey to a modernized network with innovations from HPE.
So thank you. I'm not as prepared as I normally would be. I did just find out, thank goodness for neighbors telling me about this cell phone tower. So I just have a few words and I'm sure I'll make up time.
What is your address?
What's your address, ma'am?
All right, sure. So I live at 456 Time Drive.
And Miriam, can I just say, a couple people from Time reached out to me this week, not Time Magazine, Time Drive,
Yeah,
and said, why didn't we get the letter? And I said, yeah, we and I said this earlier, we sent it out to any street that was in 1,500 feet.
Yeah.
Time is beyond that, so we didn't send it out to Time, but
okay. Well,
sorry about that.
I have
Glad you found out.
good neighbors that are
Glad you
always
found out.
sharing, so perfect. So yeah, I am a recent cancer survivor. And as a result, I'm pretty concerned about the installation, the proposed installation of the tower. I've had radiation, and it is lasting effects. And so, I hear about this, and, I'm now getting upset, and I apologize. But I don't ever want to go through that again. And, I had cancer in 2017, and I still have those effects from radiation. So it is deeply concerning to me. I would imagine it would be deeply concerning to everyone, children. So while I understand the need for better connectivity, I also believe that we need to prioritize the health and well-being of our community. The long-term effects of constant exposure to electromagnetic radiation are still being studied. And again, given my medical history, I feel especially vulnerable to any potential risks. I would like to urge you, please, to reconsider placing this tower so close to homes and families. Our neighborhood really deserves a safer alternative. I appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay. Next up is Stacy Schoen.
Hi, so I live at 1257 Wildflower Drive. I was here on July 3rd. So I just wanted to say thank you for listening to us, and I did get the mailer, which I definitely appreciate, you like reflecting on that and sending that out. So I just want to kind of say I'm here to definitely oppose the cell phone tower. This is to no benefit to the neighborhoods that are around this. This benefits Verizon. I guess on some level it's going to benefit the town financially. But when we elect people to represent us, we are electing you to have our back and to hopefully stand up for us, because our houses are there. We have no say in this at this point. If you give permission to plunk a cell phone tower in our neighborhood, we're not choosing to move there. If you plunk a cell phone tower in a field, I can choose to purchase a house and build a house there or not. But my house is there. I wouldn't have chosen a house there if I knew there was a cell phone tower there. I would have picked somewhere different. I don't have a choice. My house is already built. Please don't do this to us. There are so many people here because of the mailer and because of the town saying, all right, we do need to let more people know. There's enough people here saying, please don't do this to us. We don't have a choice. It's all of us against a big corporation, and we're hoping that you have our back and decide not to do this for the sake of whatever the lease said, $20,000 annually. Like, please have our back in this and support all of us in these neighborhoods who don't have a choice if you choose for us. Thanks.
Thank you, Stacy. Next up is Christine or Dave Remington.
We'll let our spot go to someone else, if someone else would prefer to go.
Okay, then did anybody come in later that didn't sign in that would like to speak? Sir, jump right up there. And can you give your name and address?
James Annis, 1222 Imperial Drive. I don't like the location that you guys picked. I would say no to all of it. I do know somebody that does this for a living, and I asked him to look into this, and I proposed, I don't know how anybody feels about this, but I proposed the Webster Presbyterian Church very close to this location on 250, and putting it within a bell tower. So it's not seen, it helps the church out. I know that church has been struggling with ideas of how they're going to replace that roof someday. It would solve problems for them. And I did talk to them, and they did think it was a good idea. They were interested in having Verizon contact them. I did call the Verizon's attorney, and I left a message with all that information. I did not hear back, so I oppose it. No. Thank you.
All right, thanks, James. Is there anybody else who came in late, didn't sign in, wants to speak? Going once, going twice. I have one last person here, Mike Crosby signed in.
currently Verizon Wireless. I'm a radio frequency engineer. It's tough, listening to everybody's concerns for sure. And I just want to provide a little perspective of how I've gone through this for 30 years of hearing from communities across New York State and Pennsylvania in these situations. And for some perspective, just so that, just to provide a little humanity to the appreciation for what everybody's had to say. When I was in college and I decided to be an engineer, I took a class called Technology and Ethics. And the main takeaway from that class was as a young engineer and coming into whatever the business, whatever the sector, whatever the technology was that you were going to be working in, this class taught us to take into consideration your impact on the community. And it used examples like Albert Einstein and the atomic bomb, and many other types of examples of how, great engineers or scientists or physicists throughout history have created things that have been of a negative effect. And so, that's always the anchor for everything that I do and how we build out the network and build it out in a way that's right for the community. And while I can appreciate, where everybody's coming from, I think there's some important things to take into account that, specifically on the health effects, these sites are safe. These sites are located throughout our communities, throughout the states. They're located on the roof of hospitals. They're located inside hospitals. They're located inside and on cancer treatment centers, schools, apartment complexes. And when we're building out the network like we are here in Webster, and we have large gaps in service like we do have here, we try to work with the municipality to try to find the best way to site this location that has the least impact on the community. And we've tried to do that here, and we've found a town property, a town parcel that allows us to try to minimize that impact. That's what we're trying to do. It's not perfect, it never is. But I do want to, touch on a couple other things that were mentioned about the health effects, because, a lot of times we don't get into the health effects because this is something that's actually preempted by the FCC, and I would imagine that you could understand for good reason because these topics have a tendency to spiral. But the WHO was mentioned, and I'll just read what their statement is on this. Recent surveys have indicated that RF exposures from base stations and wireless technologies in publicly accessible areas, including schools and hospitals, are normally thousands of times below international standards. From evidence accumulated so far, no adverse short or long-term health effects have been shown to occur from the RF signals produced by base stations. I have a list of all the major organizations that make up the panels that advise these government agencies, the FCC, the FDA, National Cancer Institute, American Cancer Society. They basically all say the same thing. The levels that are used to determine what's safe and what's not safe from an RF emission standpoint has been measured for far more than 50 years. And while the Telecommunications Act of 1996 is somewhat old by our standards when we look back on that, every one of these agencies all says something that I think is very prudent, which is it needs further examination. We need to continue looking at that. And that's something that's been going on for as long as I've been in the business. And I have been doing this for 30 years prior to the Telecom Act of 1996. One last point that I like to make in these situations, and I genuinely share that, you can look this up on the internet, you can search this. I share this again for perspective because I think that's important for all of us to, at least question ourselves. Are we looking at this in an accurate and a fair and reasonable way? And how RF energy works, how the cell sites work with the mobile phones is very important to this concept. The cell sites that we use for cellular communication are generally very low power. This is not like AM, FM, or digital TV broadcast, but oftentimes it's thought of similar to that, and it's not like that at all. The mobile phones that we all, or most of us carry, I have mine in my pocket right now. The mobile phones are the highest level RF exposure that any of us will be exposed to as far as comparing the cell site, the base station, which is what we're proposing here, on Creekside.
And
Versus-
Mike, you're at 4:55, so if you can just finish up that point.
Yep, the last part of this is, and I'll wrap this up, thank you, is that when we don't have a site in an area, we have a coverage problem, the mobile phones have to ramp up their power, and that increases that RF energy level that we're all being exposed to. When the cell site is, and this is a public utility, and when it is located strategically and centrally to the area that the users need the service, which is what we're proposing here, it allows the mobile phones to power down, which reduces the RF energy exposure levels that each of us are being exposed to. So I hope that that concept is something that you can explore, search that online. It's common sense in the RF world. And this generally would improve the RF conditions for each and every one of us that this cell site would be serving. Thank you.
Hey, Mike, just one question before you step down, if I could, please. You referenced the RF energy standards. Who establishes those standards?
So that's established by, I can get you a more complete answer on that for the next meeting, but that's established by a combination of a number of different agencies. It's in this document that I have here. I'll pull that out and provide a more detailed answer on that. But it's a combination of many different institutes and agencies that advise these boards. I wish I could find it quickly here. I'm not sure if I can find it. Yeah, I'll have to see if I can, I don't have that part memorized, so I'll have to find that for you. But there is an agency that advises the different various governments, and I have different government statements on this as well, so maybe that would be helpful if health effects are something that.
Well, come on back in 3 weeks, Mike, on August 7th.
We can certainly do that.
Yeah, if you could get that over, email it over prior to the meeting, that'd be great.
Sure.
All right, so the next agenda item tonight, you would like to speak also, okay? We're not done. All right.
Good evening, Robert Bergdorf, the law firm Nixon Peabody here tonight on behalf of Verizon Wireless. I want to make one more point on behalf of Verizon Wireless about these alleged health effects. We have supplied plenty of data, plenty of facts, and if people choose not to believe them, that's up to them. But the information that was supplied, and as Mike said, this is a radio signal, it's been around for 100 years. If they choose not to believe it, we can't change that. Those are the facts. But that information was supplied as a courtesy because this topic, and I want to make this legal point, this topic is preempted by federal law. A municipality cannot consider alleged or perceived health effects when making decisions with the siting of a cell tower, period. So while we have engaged on this topic and we've supplied information, we are done with this topic. We are done with this topic. With the planning board and the zoning board, we will not address it again. We've supplied materials, and even in the zoning process, we will not address it again. And if the town turns it down because of health effects, it would be reversed by a federal court. It's that simple. That's what the federal preemption is.
Well, my only response to you, Mike,
Sir, other points that I've got here.
Okay.
We are done with that. We are done with that topic.
Hold on, everybody, how quickly we all forget. Remember my rules? One person speaking. Remember I said you're gonna have 10 people say the same thing, you'll get a counterpoint, and human nature is you'll start yelling from the crowd. It happened. It happened from the board too. You can continue on, and then Councilman Cahill, if you would like to ask him at the end of his 5 minutes or 3 minutes, then you can do that.
yes, I will. I will wait. My apologies for interrupting, sir.
No, that's all right. The other topic I want to hit briefly is alternate locations. As I said last time, we don't care where we are, as long as it works from a technical standpoint without unreasonable cost, unreasonable delay. That's the law. We have supplied a search area. We've heard it from a bunch of people here saying, you need to go someplace else, but nobody else. And that search area has been supplied. In fact, I provided a courtesy copy to the neighbors. Nobody's come to us with a site that they think is better within the search area, except for one gentleman, and about the Webster Presbyterian Church, I don't know if he's still here.
He's going left now.
Okay, I did immediately refer that to RF to take a look at. It is just outside the search area, but we would look at it. Because again, we don't care where we are as long as it works from a technical standpoint. But for all these folks who keep saying there's a better site, tell us. We'll investigate it. You've got the search area, you've got the information, we've supplied it to the town. As a courtesy, we've supplied it to the neighbors, which I assume has been disseminated. And that's where we are. So aesthetics, one person said that Verizon has not said, quote, this is what you will see. We've supplied photosims to the town. We've supplied photosims as a courtesy to the neighbors. Nobody's come back to us and said, here's another view we'd like you to look at. So we keep supplying this information, and we're accused of not providing the information, and yet it's still there. One other one, small one, I wanted to hit, flashing lights. No one told, there's no flashing lights. And we have said that. In fact, I said it at the last meeting. Anything under 200 feet, unless it's in an FA approach slope, which this is not, does not require aviation lighting. So a lot of the information is there, and it keeps coming up. We keep supplying it, and it is frustrating because we keep putting it out there. And I know there's some new folks, but nobody appears to be reading any of the information that we've been supplying. So the only other thing I want to say is that what we cannot do is go away. Under our FCC license, we have to provide service. Under federal and state law, it allows us to do it as a public utility and a site that works, which basically means within the search area, regardless of what community sentiment is, and regardless of what even some code provisions say. We have to be allowed a site that works, and we are willing to work with the town as we do across the state, across the country, to find the best site. And we spent 3 years with the town, and its encouragement and its invitation to look at this site, 3 years. So that's why we're a little frustrated, because we are happy to look at other sites, but nobody's telling us where they think a better site is. I'd be happy to answer any questions now.
So what other sites did you look at? I know at our last meeting, attorney that was here at the time had asked what other sites did you look at, and I don't believe you provided those sites, but said you would email them to us?
No, I didn't say I would email them to you. There's a search area, and in that search area, essentially, it's not perfect, but essentially everything in that search area is likely to work, and essentially everything outside will not. Now, sometimes with topography and so forth, it's not perfect. Sometimes something just outside of it will work. It's not a perfectly bright line, but that's the bullseye. So we have to be roughly in that area. And we mentioned that there are a lot of residential areas that got scrubbed, because we don't typically go on a residential lot.
Right.
There are wetlands, so we can't go directly in the wetlands. And we looked at a whole bunch of other areas, but your code says to first look at municipal property. So that's why we ended up looking at this site, and we were encouraged by the town to look at this site. We have looked at a bunch of others. We have 3 other private ones we're looking at right now, because this has taken so long, we're looking at other sites.
Okay.
We will not, those will come out in the zoning process after we have a lease signed with those people.
So the other thing is, there's every meeting that we have regarding surrounding this topic, there are more and more and more people, and they're residents that live in these areas expressing concerns that are doing their research. And you get up there, and I don't mean to admonish you, sir, I really don't. I respected all the work that you are doing, Verizon's doing, but when you get up there and say, I'm done talking about health effects, you come off as condescending and dismissive. And I wish you would not do that, because what they're saying comes from their heart, and they're doing a lot of research. And you will see more and more of these people, our constituents, our residents, coming forward, doing their research and presenting their research.